Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us on this episode of the Pave It Forward podcast. My name is Phil Metzger, and with me is Kevin Gray, and we are here to help leaders in the paving industry who are looking to run more efficiently, meet their ideal customer, and improve the lives of those around them through meaningful work. Kevin, how are you today?
I'm good, man. I'm hanging in there. It's February the 11th. It's snowing like hell, but the plants are supposed to open up on March 3rd. So, we're just in that waiting period. But it's good, man. It's good to slow down just a hair, and it allows me some time to think about some other things within the business. Other things to work on within the business. So I enjoy wintertime, and especially now that I've learned how to be productive during wintertime. There was a lot of winters early on in my career where I literally just hit the brakes and didn't do much of anything for 8 or 10 weeks, and we'd always come out of the gate behind and run around like chickens with our heads cut off, and I was wondering why. So I've learned how to be a little more efficient, even though things are different and a little slower, certainly on the production side. But yeah, man, we're plugging right along.
Yeah. It's been, of course, even in the winter, we think about the weather, and as soon as a little pocket of 50 degree, 60 degree pops up here and there, we start thinking about it, and it's been nice. Our customers have even started to think about it a little bit too. We've started to get some inquiries in February, which is nice. We've got some goals, which we may dig into here later in this episode. But it's been nice to, I think it's been nice to get those leads coming, because it did. The email gets a little lonely when we don't see those emails coming in, those submissions coming in. But yeah, I can't wait to dig into the off-season stuff with you, or excuse me, winter season stuff. As I learned with AOS, calling it an off-season for everyone is just a lie because of our friends in the South.
That's
They don't
right.
get it. They have, and it's a very real challenge for them that they have to fit in, all their maintenance, all their scheduling, all the things that you kind of said is forced upon you during this winter period. In your forced break because of the weather, they have to really dig in and find other ways to do this.
Yeah, they do. It's really quite a different operation than those of us that are more seasonal. We got guys in our AOS that are up north, or in the Michigan, in northern United States climate, that several from the Northeast that sometimes only get a 6, 7, maybe 8 month talk 6, 7 month season, and then all the extreme of that, and all the way down to those in Florida, Texas, Arizona, Southwest that do this year round. And it's a very much different operation, whichever climate zone you're in. It's up north, you really got to scramble and maximize every single workable day you've got. As you get a little further south, where we get 9 to 10 months, that's still very much at the forefront of our production and efficiency schedule. Throughout the season, I've been doing this 16 years, I guess, going on my 17th season now. We average about 200 days a year, so we got to try to back our goals into that many production days every season. And the guys down south, I won't say they have a more relaxed schedule, but their production schedules don't have to be as timely or critical as ours. And I think what we found, especially in talking to some, and where sometimes we'll push 50, 60, 70-hour work weeks. Sometimes they'll certainly do that up in the northern climates. And then, you get a little further south, they can work those 40, 50, 55-hour work weeks and still set aside time to do, some of the other financial forecasting things, setting goals, KPIs, getting their maintenance taken care of, getting them everything on a schedule. And it's a little more routine on an annual basis. So very different in all parts of the country. And I find that fascinating, because although we're all running, the same kind of business, it's they all look a little different depending on where you're at on the map. So
Sure. And taking those strategies, because I by no means want to say it's easier for the people in the South, but to hear the people, we even have some participants in Canada that are legitimately talking about a 6-month season.
Yep.
And you've got to count on things going. You can't count on things going absolutely right for those 6 months either. But to have some of those strategies that those companies have to use in the off season as far as planning, and to even fit that into any kind of as I said, a company from the South, it's just a different beast. And it's
Yep.
really been enjoyable to have all these companies come together and honestly gather a pulse directly from the business owners themselves rather than reading reports and
Yeah.
just instead of just getting the headline topics of what life is like for these guys, really digging into what it's like owning and operating a business. And it's been great. I'll go ahead and get into a few announcements here about the podcast, and then we'll get into these goals here, Kevin. Um, First, request for guests for this podcast. We definitely plan on making this podcast more accessible to more people. Something else that we've learned through the program and through the years of doing this podcast is that the stories, the experiences that a lot of these business owners have gone through is what the participants of our program and the listeners of our podcast are finding most useful. Like we can come out here with definitions and technical specs and systems and descriptions for how things are done. And those are all very helpful. Those are good rocks and anchors to, base a podcast episode on, base a session on, base a system on, an off season, winter system on. But when it comes down to it, those real growth stories are what matters, and are what people are finding most valuable. So we plan on having more guests on the podcast as the year goes on. Um, Obviously, this is a really fluid thing. It's between Kevin and I. And Kevin, you're growing a business. You're in year two of a business, and man, you've got to kind of ride the lightning sometimes. If you get a 2 or 3 week stretch where you've got a lot of a business going on, and you need to do that, well, you'll handle that. When there's times when it's rainy weather and slower times, we're going to try to pack those episodes in, but we're going to try to have everyone an episode once a week. And sometimes that might be every 2 or 3 weeks at some points. But make no mistake about it, we're going to keep that goal of once a week. And if not, there will be a ton of activity on, especially the Pave It Forward social media. Kevin, you've done a great job at giving people a behind the scenes look, both the customer and the people in the industry, of what goes on in your daily job. So if you're missing Kevin and his tutelage, look no further than his Pave It Forward social media networks, because he's great about updating that. And the last announcement here is AOS. We've had some listeners reach out, and there's been a lot of cross posting for several reasons right now between Pave It Forward and AOS. One, Kevin, you're our only instructor that's going to be, or mentor that will be instructing. Excuse me, you're the only mentor that will be joining us for every week during this session, and so you've given a lot of advice there that we wanted to pass on to the Pave It Forward audience. But also we've had some people reaching out that they didn't get in on time, or they didn't join the course this year, and are wondering if we're doing it next year. We are working on a solution to make some of the course available to other people after we wrap it up. We're going to put it in a nice package and see if we can't get it out to some of these people who are asking about it. And just one more note about AOS. I'd like to use this platform to thank you, Kevin. Thank everyone that signed up, as well as, and especially those other mentors that are giving of their time and knowledge to this program. So now that I've gotten all of those announcements out of the way, Kevin, once again, thank you for AOS. And why don't you catch us up on just what life has been like for you over this last month? Our last episode was about a month ago. You and I and our children and some of the other people in our lives have had the flu. That's been going on with us. We've had AOS, which has been a wonderful responsibility to have. But pertaining to you, yourself, your business, what's it been like for you? And yeah, how are things for you?
Man, it's been good, and let me just thank you as well, since we're talking a little bit about AOS, and for really bringing, it's something we've kind of been in creation mode with, off and on, and intentionally and unintentionally, for the last I don't know, 4 or 5 years probably. It's just something we've always kind of kicked around and knew it was something we wanted to do in order to help as many people as possible. And I just, thank you really doing most of the legwork and the framework and the structure and getting everything put together to where it becomes pretty easy for myself and the mentors we've had on to be able to execute and deliver really good, solid, and sound fluid advice to the people that are participating. And I couldn't be more thankful for the mentors we've had involved with this. Adam P. Shea and Scott and Tyler Spano and Tom Esso. I mean, good Lord. The things I have learned by just being able to sit with the four of them. We're getting ready to go into week 6 of the program. And we've had, those guys on, we run 2-hour courses. So we've had 6 or 8 hours of knowledge already dumped on us from those outside mentors alone that have been truly impactful. So it's been great, man. It's you do something for the first time, you wonder how well it's going to be executed, how well it's going to be received, how many people are even going to raise their hand and say, "Hey, I'd like to be a part of that." And we've had great attendance and participation, registrations it exceeded what I think we even thought they would for year one. So that was pretty damn cool. It's just another place where contractors in our industry can get together and hopefully move the needle a little quicker in our own respective businesses. So it's been cool, man. And this winter, it's been busy for Pave It Forward as well. And and maybe it was that 70-degree day we got last week that I mean, there were times when I was operating my other business, which is much larger than what Pave It Forward is currently. I can't remember a February being any busier than it is now, as far as inbound leads coming in and estimates going out and meeting with people and just responding to the demand for our products and services. So that's been really cool. And you talked about our goals. I mean, we set a pretty lofty goal. And we said by the time we get to March and we start getting back into production mode, we want to have 50% sold of what we did all of last year in revenue. And we're on track to do that. And then we've got another, annual goal that we're shooting for 150% growth in revenue there as well. So, I mean, we've got, you set big goals, even if you don't hit them exactly, you're still knocking it out of the park. And I've just always been, I won't say always, because there was a time where I used to play it safe and I'd set marginal, 10, 20, 30% growth goals, and we'd hit them, but that's all we'd hit. When I figured out, you start setting massive goals and then backing in, because it's all about being able to back in to what you're forecasting and what you're projecting. So when we started saying, "Hey, screw that 20% growth, let's what's 100% growth look like? What's 200% growth look like? And then what's your average job price look like that we've got to sell? And how many jobs do we have to sell to get it? And what kind of customers and what kind of jobs?" And really start putting all the pieces together to say,
Can your
"All right,
operation handle it?
yeah, man. Yeah." It's like, if we want to hit this, we now know exactly how we get there. And we didn't necessarily know that. Certainly when I first started, and probably not even when you and I first started about 8 years ago. But we've really been able to wrap our arms around that and target it and market it and brand it in a fashion to where we're getting in front of the customers that we want to be in front of, that help us get to our goals quicker. I mean, there's nothing, and it's a process, and it takes being in business a little bit and maximizing some SEO and becoming relevant and word of mouth spreading and brand spreading in your hometown to where you're not just chasing lead after lead after lead after lead to be able to get to where you're going, because that becomes a rat race. You start operating in that fashion, you're only selling, closing on 10 or 15% of the work you're bidding. that gets tiring. We like to be, and I looked at it. It's funny. I was looking at it this morning while I had a couple minutes before I went into the gym, and we're operating at nearly a 50% closing ratio on leads that have come in and jobs contracts that we've won. And when you can get in that 30 to 50% range, which 50% is unheard of. I mean, 30's killing it. When you can get 30 plus, especially when you're looking at work that you want to be looking at for customers that you want to be working for, it starts to change things pretty quickly. So that's kind of the mode we're in, as far as Pave It Forward goes. And it's been fun because we see all the things working that we sat down a year and a half ago and said, this is where we are, this is where we want to go, this is where we think we want to be when we grow up, what's our long-term goals. And it's cool, man, to be, just a year in, um, really starting with nothing. Like, when I bought the first business, we took out an SBA loan. We had some capital. We had some support getting that thing off the ground. And this one's been white knuckled, man. I haven't taken out any loans. I don't have a line of credit. Everything's been on kind of a cash in, cash out basis. And that's cool. I'm not trying to play the debt game too much this time around. And it's cool to start seeing, all the fruits of our labor starting to come to fruition, because look, it's stressful. It's anxious. I get anxious a lot. There's worry, there's fear, there's all these things involved. Uh, but what I find when we just keep doing what we say we're going to do and keep following the plan and following the script and trusting the process and trusting the data and trusting the forecast, and things start happening, it's like, wow, you really just got to keep putting one foot in front of the other. And things, I could probably go through 10 to 20 things over the last year that have happened just at the right time when I felt like things were starting to get grim, or like, oh shit, how are we going to get to payroll next week? How are we going to get our equipment paid for next week? How am I going to pay my marketing budget? I mean, and things, if we just keep following the plan, things keep continuing to happen, which put us in a position to keep moving forward. So I guess all I'm trying to say with that is as long as you have a process, as long as you have a plan, as long as you've got a forecast put together and it's detailed and you know exactly what it looks like, and you just keep putting one foot in front of the other, like things begin to happen. Because the last time I've grown a successful business was, it started a decade ago, 4 or 5 years into my first, nothing really happened those first 4 or 5 years except for a lot of hard lessons that I learned. But it really didn't start to take shape and form and start growing until, we were 5, 6 years in, and then really took a turn when you and I got involved and got really specific on where we wanted to go and who we wanted to be. And me now 17 years into this, having to go back in my memory bank 10, 12 years and say, well, I trust the process. We had a process then. I trust the process then. It all worked out then. There's no reason it won't again. Let's just don't overcomplicate it. Don't overthink it. Don't overstress it. I'm not saying that stress, fear, worry, anxiety don't come with owning, operating, starting a business from scratch, because they all do. Um, but we have a plan, and it's good to have a plan. We have a plan, and things are happening with the inbound leads coming in that I'm out looking at a couple different properties this week that we want to move our operations to, and get into a shop and have a home base. And we've been operating kind of from 2 home bases for the past, year to 16 months, and it's worked, but it's not as efficient as it could be. It doesn't promote culture as well as it could. It doesn't promote camaraderie and the whole team and environment. And we've got this thing that we all report to and are accountable to each and every day. And we go out to work and we come. It's just getting some of those things going again. It's like it's happening. So just continuing to trust the process has been the biggest things I've been focused on with Pave It Forward over the last couple months. And personally, I've talked about it a lot, some on my other podcast, the Rock Bottom podcast. I've got, if I want to be a good leader, if I want to be a good spouse, partner, father, um, member of society, member to my community, engaged, aware, present, impactful, do all the things that I need to be doing as a leader. I mean, there's 6 or 7 things I've got to do on a given day that help me become the be and maintain the best version of myself. And I've really not meaning to brag about this because I don't really care, but I looked myself in the mirror about, I don't know, 2, 3 months ago, and I put on some weight, and I'm like, man, you got to get some of this discipline built back in your life. So I'm doing 75 hard again. I'm on day 37, I think. And that's just, and after I did it the first time 4 years ago, I mean, I kept those pillars as a part of my life. I wasn't working out necessarily twice a day, but I was drinking a gallon of water. I was eating good. I was reading. I was exercising. Doing the thing, 4, 5, 6, 7 things that kind of keep me healthy and centered and focused outside of everything else I've got to do. Like if I don't take care of those things first and foremost, and the rest of it kind of just goes to shit. And
And
so
not to
me,
mention, those were the best years of the other company, the most profitable,
100%.
best running years.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, they were. So I've, uh, and I'm fortunate. I'm fortunate that I have 17 years in business that has been filled with a lot of success. It's also been filled with a lot of failure. And the fact that I know, or at least have the wisdom to know what exactly I need to do personally to be able to help everything else out in my life today is a blessing because I have the solutions, I have the tools, I have the toolbox. I just gotta go get the tools, and it all starts with my discipline. So being able to tap uh, back into that, because look, it's easy to excuse that when you're getting out of a divorce and finances are tough, and you're starting a business, and uh, kids' custody schedules are weird, like all these things. All the bullshit I told myself that, hey, you don't have time to work out. You're starting a business. All the lies I could tell myself to avoid doing the 6 or 7 things that really keep me being the best version of myself because I was too busy. Right. Well, that's bullshit. Those things take about 2 hours a day. Like
Yeah,
it's really not that much. And when I'm not working out twice a day, they take about an hour and 15 minutes a day.
sure.
It's wake up an hour earlier, dumbass. Don't stay
Yeah.
up so late at night, dumbass. So it's there's been some intentional discipline I've personally been working on, really tapping in to my 12-step program and getting involved with that. I mean, that really keeps me centered and keeps my cup full, spiritually full. It keeps me happy. Tapping in, there's a men's group I'm involved with that meets every Tuesday morning at 5:30. That helps, and man, it's just a lot of intentionality behind taking care of myself so I can take care of the things that are coming at me, because year 2 in business, we've got big goals, we've got aspirations. It's going to be busy, but if I don't have the discipline, then it's gonna seem extremely busy, and I'm gonna get out of whack real quick as a leader and the person that's the visionary and kind of steering this ship. So a lot of intentional focus going on this winter, and I think that's just a sign of growth. I mean, because like I said earlier, I mean there were plenty of winters um, where I hit the snooze button and kick back and relax and didn't do shit personally or professionally, and it hurt coming out of the gate. It was June, July, August before we were catching up from the ass kicking we took in the spring. So I want to be out ahead of those things, both personally and professionally. And that's what I've been after, man, these last couple months.
Well, there's clearly a difference between when you first started, when you did nothing, and now
Yeah.
in the winter. And I definitely appreciate the personal perspective because that was part of this next question was,
Hmm.
what do you do personally in the winter, as a leader to kind of get yourself focused. But compared to, we'll say maybe, 5 to 7 years ago, when you really first tried to take advantage of the off season, when you started, getting out of bed when the snooze stopped hitting the snooze, getting out of bed. Do you remember how it was different than what you're doing now? And the angle I'm coming at this from is that um, you were setting some high goals. You said that yeah, basically your goal is to have in the books 50% of all that you did last year, and you had an impressive first full year in business. Um, so, is there anything that you've especially being comfortable and besides just having the time under your belt, is there anything different that you're finding yourself doing this winter compared to when you were first just seeking answers over the winter time?
I don't know. And maybe it's just the way I'm wired, or, maybe every entrepreneur is wired a little bit like this, but um, I don't know. I don't know that I ever feel comfortable because I always feel like comfort now. Being at peace is one thing. Knowing you're achieving your goals and checking some boxes and doing the things you need to be doing. There's some peace in that, but it's almost like once you get that peace and comfort, it's like, okay, what's the next step, or we've climbed to this peak, but we're nowhere near the top of the mountain. We've come over this hill, and now we're standing on top of this hill, which, by the way, kicked our ass. That was a big hill, but that peak is still way up there. And how do we get there? And do we want to go there? And why are we going there? Or is that maybe that peak below it, the goal? Is that where we want to end up? So and it's funny you ask this because I find myself a lot these days, because you said it just a second ago. You said those 3 4 years after I did 75 hard, 4 or 5 years ago, whenever it was, were the best years in business. And all I can remember um, about those best years and those were probably some of my best personal years also. Um, uh, Even I don't know. There's a lot that goes into that, but those were probably that period of 3 4 years. There was probably the best personally and professionally, until the wheels came off. But I find myself remembering back to those times, and I remember how good they were, how good I felt, physically, mentally, emotionally. Um, how well things were actually truly going, like how well oiled out of a machine the business had become and my personal life had become, and just everything was kind of in sync. And not that there weren't hard days and we were putting out fires on a weekly basis, because you just always are if you're in business, but they were manageable and they were predictable, and we had solutions for them. And there wasn't anything you could do that would get us out of our rhythm. Like the culture was there, the camaraderie was there, the teamwork was there, my leadership was there, everybody was bought in, uh, and it was great. And I think I'm not there right now, but that's all I can remember is how good things were. But I think I often forget the process that it took to get to that. And maybe it started with 75 hard, and that was, that's 2.5 months. And there's probably another 4 to 8 month period after that that really led in or ramped up into the good period, if you will. So me doing 75 hard again, and practicing discipline and doing all the things I was doing throughout all of that, I'm sitting here wanting immediate, gratification, saying, why don't things feel like that yet, or now, or will they ever feel that way again? Or can we ever get back to that good? Or can we even get better? And I go back and I'm like, well, man, I don't think I have stressed about that stuff then. And, these things were all these ducks were in a row, and they're not right now. I'm just like, I'm still in the process of getting there. And I just, yeah, what I have to remind myself is to trust the process, practice some patience, and just believe, because like I said, every time I feel like we're going to miss a step or something's not going to happen, uh, something always good is ending up happening. And it's really, uh, what I've had to do is really take my self will out of it. If I just we set up the play, I run the play, uh, and then we're going to get the result as from running that play. I can't maneuver and steer and manipulate and convince or whatever I feel like I thought I used to have to do to make things go favor our direction. So now it's more of really just some surrender and some acceptance to the plan and the process and the patience and allowing things to come when they're supposed to come. And that's okay too. Like I may want all of this tomorrow, but then and 5 years ago I probably would be like, yeah, let's grow by 500%, and we'll figure out how to do all this work, and we'll go hire the people because everybody loves us, and we're this and we're that. And now it's like, well, that all may work out, but let's not remember who we are right now and where we're going. Like, are we even ready for all that yet? And when I am able to look back and shut my mind off a bit and look at the 4 to 5 years that were really great, none of that happened overnight. It all was and nothing really happened exponentially quickly. We did have a couple years of really explosive growth, but that all came because we found a couple new clients who uh, grew our revenue, grew our business by a third, just in a couple relationships. And that can happen this afternoon with one phone call. Like I know that, and it's going to happen at some point. Like, there's going to come a time, if you keep doing what you say you're going to do, and showing up and trusting the process and following the steps and believing uh, in what you're doing, like those things happen. Those things come to fruition. Uh, it's it's impossible for them not to. It's impossible, and it's impossible to do the right things every day and get the wrong results. It just is. Like, and I just lean on that, and I know that when we have a conversation similar to this a couple years from now, uh, I'll be like, wow, look where we are now. Uh, and this time, right now in this moment, I still have doubt, and I still have some worry and some fear and some anxiety of are things going to work out. And now, knowing what I've known and having done it before and failed and succeeded, like, I know how this story writes itself if you just keep doing the next right action.
Sure. Yeah. If unless something out of your control happens to the world around us or something like
Of
that,
course.
which you don't want to plan for that, you've run the play enough. So, with the other company, you went, um, from three, we've documented this on the program before, from 3 to 7 million over the course of 3 full seasons, I believe. Four, maybe, if you include the 2020 season in there that kind of gave a hiccup. But
Yeah,
just to kind of place
2020
you now,
it was weird.
yeah, and we still did all right. Um,
We did.
you,
We actually, well, and we punted back to our, where we were growing so rapidly on the commercial side. All that stuff stopped, and we saw that coming, and we were able to redirect all of our marketing and our branding towards the residential consumer. And that stuff, we did more of that than we'd ever done in the company's history. So it may
yeah,
not have shown as growth from a revenue, because our ticket items were quite a bit less than what you can get on some of that commercial stuff. But we grew by customer base for sure that year.
yeah, especially that happened in March. As soon as you're drying up
Right
for
out of
the
the gate.
winter,
We had
and
a
right out
couple
of the
million
gate.
dollars worth of commercial work on the books that all pulled the plug, and we're like, well, there goes the first at least third of our season. Like,
Yeah,
what
yeah,
now?
those meetings were uncomfortable.
Yeah,
But
see,
as far
I don't even, I don't think about things like that when I look back at how good those times were. You know what I
yeah,
mean? And that's just proof to me that today, now, when we're in it again, like those are the things that are happening now. These are the learning curves. This is growth. This is what it looks like. And it's like you almost block out the hard times once you get, to where you're going. It's kind of like when you're driving from Michigan to Florida to go to the beach, and like, my God, it's a 17-hour car ride, and the car ride is awful. But once you get to the beach and open up your car door and the ocean's right there in the sun, you forget about the entire drive. Like,
yeah,
we're here. We're at the beach.
absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. But I don't want to cut off your credit yet because you do have this company that is clearly growing. And that's what I wanted to kind of set the stage with that because let's see, you started taking jobs late summer 2023. You didn't even really you had an LLC, but you didn't really have a company. It
I
was
didn't have a website. I didn't have
didn't have a
anything.
website. So 1 year ago, you gathered some partners and you made a business plan. And then on February 21st is when we did our first bit of marketing. It was the first announcements to the world that you even had a company. So it hasn't even been a year yet.
Wow. Wow.
Do you feel like you still have a new construction company? And how do you view your growth this year? Obviously, you set some financial goals. But when you think about the squad that you run out every day, when you think about what you want to be doing with your daily life, what does that vision kind of look like on the high end, maybe? And then what would just be like a solid 2025 for you and your vision?
Yeah, dude. I mean, I feel like we're still just starting, and it's amazing the perspective you just put it in, that it hasn't even been a year. Um, the things we were able to accomplish last year, not even having a shop or a home base, operating off of two very minimal. Uh, no, there weren't even rental facilities. They were friends of ours in the industry that had some space for us to store our stuff. Um, and we only worked 2 or 3 days a week, and to be able to produce what we did, with with what with what we had and who we have, based on what, and now the crew we have. I mean, they're as good as any crew I've ever had, as far as it goes, with attitude and accountability, and just showing up and ready to do whatever it takes. We've got all the right mentality guys on the team, but
And they're coming back this year?
they're
All,
coming
all
back. Yep, yep. We've got a couple more that are interested, um, and we'll see how that goes. But to do it with from the equipment I've had to what we had last year, which is not, it's not bad equipment by any stretch of the imagination. It's just not what I'd grown accustomed to, and that's been great because that's humbling, but it's also very rewarding to say, as light as we are in capital and resources, um, what we were able to go out and do and accomplish, and the kind of margins we were able to turn, and the kind of quality and consumer experience we were able to deliver. I mean, I think uh, every review we got last year was a 5-star review, and nobody's put up. And we had a couple little warranty issues pop up, but and we've gone back and handled them, and it is really just some edges breaking off, and probably wasn't even necessarily related to our installation. It probably just an accident on the consumer's end, and we just go back and handle it, because it's no big deal. And um, but for what we did, for just literally, I say here all the time, in our market, in this region of the country, we want to work 215 days a year. And I think we worked 89 last year. I mean, literally 89 days. And so the goal this year is to get a space to operate out of. It's to get to where we are working 40, 50-hour weeks, week in and week out. If we can get to that point, um, you do the math. I mean, you damn near triple the business in itself by just being able to fill the weeks up. So if we can go from 2 days a week to 4 to 5 days a week, and then what I'm seeing now too is as our SEO is working, as some people are, because look, when I exited the other business, got removed from the other business, I had to change my phone number. I mean, I basically walked away from that thing. There's a non-compete to where I can't call any of my old customers. They've got to reach, if they reach out to me, cool, but I've got a new number, I've got a new email address, I've got a new identity, I've got an entirely new company. So it's taken some time, and we're still not even getting much of that really at all. A couple clients. So all of this is new generation, and so the new generation, lead generation, is growing quite rapidly, and I have a feeling that some of that older repeat business will start creeping its way in there too. I mean, and it's, look, in this industry, it's not hard to separate yourself from the competition, especially if you're in uh, the small to mid-size market. We're never going to be a big boy. We're never probably going to own our own asphalt plant or run a massive trucking division or site civil division to where we're one of the big boys in town. But in that mid-size paving category, there's still only a couple here in town that year in and year out hold the reputation, and there's about 10 to 20 others that come and go, that come in for a year or two and then they're gone, and then come in for a year or two and they're gone, or they'll get sued or get their equipment repossessed and they'll change their name. So as long as we can continue to keep doing what we say we're going to do, we will just by proxy, gain reputation and gain more demand in our brand and our services here, just in the local community. So, I mean, it's,
Yeah. I want to dive into something you mentioned or you talked about right there.
yeah,
And that is something we've brought up in different ways throughout our history of knowing each other. But what I want to talk about is that opportunity you said kind of be the top edge of that middle of the ground company size as far as asphalt paving. And something that I find is that I work best with people that want to be the top 10% in their market. They don't have to be number one because they understand they may not have the abilities to have an asphalt plant. But when you think about the asphalt industry specifically, those big guys are wanting heavy highway work. They're wanting these jobs that are big capital projects. And when you think about the projects that are still left out there for the medium-sized companies, incredible. I mean, you have these warehouse parking lots. You have all kinds of HOAs. You can get private town, city and town roads, some smaller gigs like that. The horse farms and stuff. When we get into it, there is a lot of money out there. Obviously, we talk about gratifying work in other areas, but when you talk about being the top of the middle of the pack guys, there is a tremendous opportunity for business owners. And I know it's market dependent, and it's how many companies are in your market, the type of market you're in as far as the client base. There's all kinds of differentiating factors, but there is an opportunity there, and we're seeing it from every angle. We're seeing, I see all the memes coming through. They hate us because they ain't us on social media, because the industry, people are starting to realize how much money there is in it, how much reliable work there is in it, and it's an incredible opportunity. So
yeah. I mean,
you
I mean, if you take just, Louisville, Jefferson County, Metro, and then, surrounding counties, let's just take I don't know, a 60-mile radius of where we're positioned. There's, and I'm just going off historical data, what I know from these larger companies, and there's one, two, there's five big guys in town. There's 3 to 5 mid-sized guys, and then there's 15 smaller gypsy. I'm just going to call them what they are, kind of fly by night. Some which do a fine job, and nothing against it. They just are what they are. there's, and this is probably on the low end, but there's $150 million worth of probably private paving work that goes on with, let's call it 100-mile radius of where we are every single year. I mean, so if we can go out and get 2% of that, like we're a $3 million business.
Sure.
If we can go and get 5% of that, we're a $7.5 million business. And that's where it started happening with the other business. Like, we knew that the larger companies were doing 40 to $50 million a year of private paving work around town or within the region. And it was like, why can't we get a 0.5% of their $40 million clients? Like, it's really not this big elephant you got to go out and slaughter to really grow your mid-sized paving business. You're talking about finding a few clients that become $1 million a year partnerships, and all of a sudden you're a $5 to $10 million business. And that can happen overnight. And it happened overnight with the other business, but it didn't happen overnight. It happened 7, 8, 9, 10 years of really hard work, and then followed, on the back end of that 10 years of kind of our first 3 of being intentional with what we were doing. And then bam, it happened. So
Absolutely. It really is fun. Because and you talk about the headache, it's like, and I know it's gonna take a year for SEO and for marketing to work. Like, even word of mouth, we talk about it constantly. That's the biggest one. It just takes time for that to build. And to already see the this much in leads coming in this early is great. But I wanted to get back to the vision, and please stop me if you're running out of time, Kev. I know you. I know
I'm
we're
good,
just
man.
we're kind of going here. But when you think of different areas of your business, of your team within 2025, where do you see a potentially big change as far as maybe either team size, uh, support staff on the office side, or maybe even a salesperson? Do you foresee that in 2025?
I could see I could see all of that happening. I mean, honestly, it just kind of
So
all.
how do you approach that? I mean, obviously you have goals, and obviously some things you just have to wait until things happen.
Yeah.
How do you approach that?
Well, it's tricky because um, even if you can see it coming, it doesn't mean you can financially justify it and say, "Hey, we're gonna need this in 3 months." Now, sometimes you can, if your data is that solid, and for sure, or if, let's just say, in the next 30, 45 days, we sign X amount of contracts and have that picture solidified for us, I can say, we need to pop a prep crew. I need to hire a sales guy, and I need someone in this office answering the phone and delegating and moving paper and keeping this organized. So that could happen quickly. The challenge gets to be, especially on the crew side, and I don't even really. Everybody talks about there's no labor out there, that you can't find good help. The workforce sucks, and yes, is it much more limited and restricted as far as skilled labor goes than what it used to be? Absolutely. But I have enough confidence and know enough people in town, and we know ways of attracting talent, through outlets, not hiring ads and things of that nature, but by other means. If even if we are in the season, it's like, hey, we got to get a prep crew, and oh, by the way, we got so much paving work, we can't do all this seal coating work unless we've got a seal coating crew now too. So I mean, and we have good enough people on our team now with the right kind of leadership qualities and attitudes that would be willing to train, and we may have stopped paving for a week or two and just say, we got to get some guys trained up that can go out, or we got to split this crew up and make it look like this, so we can also do that. You two guys are going to go lead this now, and we're going to. I don't. It's going to be an evolving thing, but there's going to come a point where we're going to start outselling our production capabilities, and we're going to have to start filling that in. And by God, I hope we do. And if the inbound leads continue to be what they're already kind of looking like. So like I said, I've never seen. It's only February the 11th. I mean, we're 10 days into February. I don't know that I've. Um, we're on pace to have more leads into February, not even remotely close to what I've ever seen. Like, there's going to come a point where a salesperson is going to be necessary, where a prep crew is going to be necessary, where a seal coating maintenance crew is going to be necessary. Um, we're
Well,
all
let's
ready
play the
to.
game. Let's play this game. So your goal is to do 5 days a week. Be to have 5 days a week worth of paving. Get these guys 40 hours a week. Um, what do you think your first move will be? Will it be to take over sales and try to train? You obviously have a trusted leader on the paving side, but you stepping away is a major figure in the field, and you're the owner of the company. Do you step away to that? Focus more on sales? Do you look for a salesperson, keep the quality in the field? Do you juggle both? What is your first reaction to that?
Well, I own the company, so I'm going to do what I want to do first. No, just no.
That's a good point. That's a
Now,
good point.
now,
Talk about
can
it.
can I have some? Well, when I say I'm going to do what I want to do most, that better be the thing that I am best at doing, or best at being a leader. Having the biggest impact on either training someone new, or growing a department, or in whatever that task or hire or process might look like. I and that's going to be the key, is putting the right people in the right places to execute the way we need the business to execute. Because at some point, it's going to need to operate much differently than it is now, much differently. And so, just being this 5-6 person entity that we are right now, we got to make sure that first and foremost, we're using the people in house who we already have and get them in the right positions. And then if we're bringing people, onboarding folks, or bringing people onto the team, that we're making good hires. Uh, I will take my time, bringing anybody into a culture anymore. It's just not worth it to uh, my days of hiring out of necessity, or need to fill a seat because Johnny quit, or we can't possibly go do this job without 2 roller operators or another screed guy. Those days are over. Like, we'll figure out how to go get the job done with who we've got and what we've got. So it's just hiring slow, and building, uh, putting the right people in the right positions. We've talked about the Zen Master before, and it starts looking a lot like how Phil Jackson constructed his teams, and he didn't have 5 of the greatest athletes in the world out there on the floor at all the time, but he had the right people to get the jobs done needed at the right positions, depending on what defense they were going up against, or how many minutes were left in the game. Like, all these different factors and scenarios and variables. Like, we've just got to be strategic about doing this very, very strategically. And the timing's got to be like it. And there can't, like I said, there can't be any decisions made out of fear of loss of revenue, or whatever the fear may be. We can't let anybody get us over a barrel. We've got to be strategic with this. We got to get the right butts in the right seats. We got to get people doing what they enjoy doing. That's one of the biggest parts of the battle when you build out teams or bring in new people, is um, you got to hire them to do something they're actually going to show up and enjoy doing every single day, or teach them to do something they're going to enjoy every day.
Have you and the people currently on your crew had conversations over this winter about how growth looks for them? Obviously, you have some people on your team that you trust tremendously, and
Yeah.
you're hoping will stay with you and be rocks. What are the conversations looking like from their point of view?
Well, I think right now, currently as it stands today, everybody kind of knows And look, I'm fortunate because I've got every one of my guys, except the one, and he's one of my partner's long-term guys. They all kind of understand. They've been with me through the ride for quite a while now, so they know what it looks like when it's really good. They know what it
Mm.
looks like when it's really bad too, by the way. And so I'm fortunate that they know exactly, without much discussion, really, they know exactly where we are right now. But most importantly, they know where we're going, and they all know how much we value them and trust them and appreciate them. And there have been discussions. There's a couple in particular that I've personally had conversations with about, if this side of the business really picks up, is this something you would be interested? You're capable of doing it. Is this something you'd be interested in leading or taking charge of? Or uh, and so yeah, we're just being five or six of us, and all of us having been together for a while. Like, we're pretty open and honest in our conversations. Like, there's a lot of transparency. Um, and I've got. Uh, I'm not saying you've always need to be. Yeah, fuck. Yeah, you know what? Yeah, you do. You need to be transparent with your folks, no matter whether you got five or six of them that have been with you 10 years, or you got 30 that have just been with you a few months. And I'm not saying you can need to be as transparent all the way up and down at the same level you are with everybody, but people need to know what your intentions are as a business. They need to know what their future can look like. They need to know where the ship's going, where their individual ship can go. And so we talk about this stuff a lot, because we all understand and appreciate who we are now, what we're going through, what it looks. And look, we took care of these guys. I said it earlier. We were only working a couple days a week. We made sure they got paid well because we knew that they were sacrificing a couple of days a week where they weren't going to be making any income. And it wasn't, what, as much as I would like, it's never as much as I would like to, but it's never been as much as I would really like to. But we were able to give them some money going into winter to say, I mean, yeah, I hope this helps. Just really trying to show our appreciation and um, make this thing work, because as it operated last year, it was very much kind of a piecemealed, this is who we are, this is where we operate from. We all kind of show up on the jobs, we get them done, and then we go home. And sometimes, especially if it were raining or something, we would go our separate ways for a week or more, and we wouldn't do anything. So we all understand the mission. We talk about it a lot. I'm open and honest with them. I'm transparent. There's no guessing. People can come and talk to me or Tony whenever they want about whatever, and we're gonna work through it. So
Is what you just said the reason why these people are here? Because you do hear about the turnover in the industry, and I can hear some of the people from our AOS course thinking right now, if I had 5 or 6 employees that I could count on and not even have to worry about hiring a sixth or seventh to handle a one-man crew, I would be the happiest I've been in my life. So is it as simple as the transparency and listening and letting them know where the ship is going, that those guys are with you? Because, when you mentioned them not having with paving, you don't know what jobs you're going to be paving. You can't, there aren't many jobs out there that you can go get a second job and say, I don't know when I can be here, based on my first
yeah,
job. So, and like you
they're
couldn't pay
basically on
them
call,
what you
man.
wanted to. Yeah. So is it as simple as transparency and letting them know where their opportunities lay, why these guys are here? So specifically thinking about your guys, does that sum it up, or are there other reasons within your crew that they're with you?
I think, I mean, that's a huge piece of it. Um, uh, Another piece of this, and it gets so convoluted in business all the time, and people, I feel like business owners really try to overcomplicate this, and find out where that where the boundary needs to lie between employee and employer. And it's, I don't, there's just not much of a line with the way I operate. Like I want to treat you like a human. Um, do I need you to be accountable and responsible? And do you have a time you're like, you have to be accountable to certain things that we require as a business. But if I can't treat you, if I'm treating you just like a piece of equipment or a machine instead of a human being, then you're not going to get anybody to stay around very long. And I think the biggest, I think the biggest thing where leaders fail, and now don't get me wrong, there is a certain point when an employee and employer need to part ways, when it's obviously not working out. They're not willing, you can lead them to water. We need them to drink too. Like, where, but I think so many leaders and I'm talking about owners, I'm talking about management, I'm talking about foremen, mid management, like especially in construction, um, we forget we forget how green we were when we started, and how long that learning curve can be, and how intentional we've got to be with our training and coaching and bringing especially new people to, and like I said, I'd rather hire a new person green to the industry over a 25-year skilled veteran any day of the week, because what I've found 95% of the time is that skilled veteran that comes in is a major culture disruptor. They've got their own ways of doing things. We did it this way at this company, and you don't know what the hell you're doing, and that's not right. Hey, look, we're doing it our way. This, and look, if you've got a better idea, we'll listen to it, and we want to implement change wherever it's necessary. Like, I'm not saying we're blind, but there's just usually a persona and an attitude that comes in with that. But I think we miss a lot of the time how much onboarding and training and attention and getting to know someone as a human being, not just as your employee, gets kind of passed to the wayside. And when we don't get to know people on a personal level, on a human level, on a what makes you tick, why do you like working here, what excites you to get out of bed in the morning and be, you start at 5:30, 5 a.m. sometimes, like what makes you get out of bed and want to be a part of this, and really tap into the things that personally drives each and every individual, is because you can't coach every or lead every person in the exact same way. And that's where major turnover happens, because you're gonna have 30-40% of the people all the time that aren't buying into one way that they're being led or taught or trained, or otherwise. That's you're losing half the people's attention span because they're not getting any reward of coming to work for you, whether it be financially, whether it be emotionally, whatever it is they need to make themselves feel fulfilled, purposeful, happy. If they're not getting it from you, it's not going to work out long term. And if you haven't taken the necessary steps and really gone down that road with them to make sure that uh, all those needs are being met, uh, then it's not going to be long term. And if you have gone down that road to make sure all those needs are met, and you can look yourself in the mirror as a leader, as a foreman, as management, and confidently say, I've done everything I can possibly do to help this person succeed here, and it's just not working out, then you can let them go. But if you can't honestly say that, if you're just immediately getting frustrated and saying, God, I've shown him 3 times how to do this and he just doesn't get it, well, maybe you didn't show him the way he can actually learn it. I mean, there's just, I always err on the side of just trying a little harder from the management side of bringing folks along before you just assume they're not a good fit, or the workforce is shitty.
Yeah,
Maybe the leader's shitty.
yeah. One thing, it's funny when living out in Colorado. My wife, when we first moved here, said something about it being cold to one of the people who lived here, and it's so Colorado, it's ridiculous. And they said, it's not cold, you just have shitty gear. And I love that kind of reframe, like, don't complain, see what you can kind of do about the problem. But I wanted to You're just Oh, the mentality of you as the business owner coming with this mentality of, I mean, I'm thinking of a rake man, a shovel man, somebody that's new to the industry, completely new. And I'm thinking of you taking your time and doing these things, not just showing them how to shovel or rake, but asking them what they like about their day and what motivates them and just getting to know them. It feels so separate from the traditional, maybe not education, but at least the traditional hierarchy of a business structure. Like, you're the leader, you pass it down to management, you tell them how to do things, management handles the onboarding and making sure the person is doing their job. Um, and it's I guess this is just a point. It's almost strange to me that that is now what gives you comfort um, through that process. It
100%.
is just that you can count that you're if you're doing those things and going even into the depth of you looking yourself in the mirror, not just, well, we ran the play and he didn't work out or she didn't work out. That just seems
It's a cop out,
natural
man.
but odd. You know what I mean?
I do. It's becoming the ultimate cop out because we can sit around as a construction industry and bitch and moan about the lack of the workforce or the lack of workforce development or all of the skilled guys that are now in their late 50s, 60s, 70s and retiring, um, and continue to try and hire and onboard and train people the way we've been doing it forever. And then we'll just continue to bitch about the workforce, or we can change the way we lead and manage these companies. Like, because the workforce isn't changing. We're not changing how these people that have been born and raised in different generations are going to act or respond or be. Like, we're just not. Um, we're just not.
That
So,
mountain on
so
your own.
we
Yeah,
have to change. If we want
absolutely.
a workforce, the workforce isn't. You look. There's guys out there that come in and are rock stars, and you've seen them through our history working together. We'll find maybe a guy or two a year that's like, holy shit, this guy's the package, and that's great. But all the other 80% that aren't your thoroughbreds, well, we have to do something about that as the business owner or the leader or the manager. That's our job. We work for those people.
Absolutely. And I
We
do think I think it's fascinating the way you talk about the generational change, and obviously there's some insinuation which we have talked a lot about um, on this and in the past, just about the younger generation, and their lack of willingness to do X, Y, and Z. But what we're finding is there are plenty of them out there, and if you if you treat someone expecting a certain result, well, then that's definitely the result you're going to get. Um, so having this different kind of view of your own business, of your own opportunities within your own business, I think it's a really enjoyable way of going about it. And honestly, as a business owner, to know that you have that much connection to your business without having to micromanage, you can get to know your people. You can get to know their likes, their dislikes, what they mean to your culture as a person without having to micromanage and be their boss and take authority away from your foreman or anything like that. But still feel like everyone's on an equal level. I mean that sounds like the ultimate atmosphere to go to work and operate within.
Yeah,
Kevin, I wanted to go
and
ahead,
I'm not
please.
saying that is all absent from um, clear expectations and standard operating procedures and ways that days and things and processes need to be executed. Like, that doesn't mean we just willy nilly and we will tolerate anything. And um, but and again, that all starts, all of that stuff. When we talk about transparency, you got to be super transparent in the hiring process too, and saying, look, I am going to coach you, I am going to train you, I am going to get to know what makes you tick, I am going to figure out what motivates you and makes you happy and responsive. But this is what your journey looks like with this company. This is, and the Spanos talked about it in our session a couple weeks back about it, and they've got that uh, chart on the wall, the poster for everybody to see that ever comes to work for that business, that at this experience level, and these skills attained, you make this much money at this level. It's that, like, so there's no gray area of to any of that. And this,
Sure. And specifically what you're referring to and the problem you brought up was just automatically giving people raises every year. What that does is
yeah,
once you can
just
check
because of
all the
tenure.
box within that pay range, then you can go up to that.
100%. Yeah. Yeah.
And I love that. Because it's a tough industry. You know, just getting out and just doing manual labor every day is really not going to inspire anyone. And I think if you ask anyone in any field, the more they can work with people that they enjoy working around for purposeful driven activities for a leader, for especially a leader that they like and enjoy being with and working for, that'll, I mean, that can really make your quality of life go up because they're spending the heart of the week, the most awake, aware parts of our lives, the majority of it. With our places of business.
Yeah.
Um, Kevin, I wanted to ask for your final reminders to anyone in the off season. If there was anything kind of in this episode or throughout the last month or so that you just wanted to kind of share, just a reminder, whether it be about your crew prepping for the season, your equipment, people. Is there any last kind of thoughts or reminders for the listeners out there as far as what they may want to address before they get too busy if they're not in the South?
All of it. I
All of it.
mean, the big reminder here is like, don't, and like I said, I did it for years, and it bit me in the ass for years. You should have been planning 2025 before 2024 ended. Like that last quarter of 2024, you should start, you need to be working on things for the next, because just because the calendar turns over or winter happens doesn't mean that first quarter of 2025 doesn't start January 1st. I mean, your next fiscal year starts as soon as you get through the holiday, man. It's game on. And if you're waiting, uh, there were years where it would be into mid-February before I would start doing anything for the next year. And I was 3 to 4 months behind at that point of doing things I now know today that I should have been doing in preparation for the next season. So if you haven't started, start. And when you start thinking about 2026, start thinking about it in October of this year, and get a plan together, and even write it out if you got to. If you gotta get a big ass calendar in your office, and I did this for a lot of years. Like we would start in October, November, and we would start writing out what our rocks or what our accomplishments, things we want to check off the list in January, February, leading up to March when we're back into production. So we knew all the time necessary, uh, all the finances necessary, all the training that may have been necessary, all the things that we needed to have in order to get those things accomplished before our season started. We had a roadmap of exactly what we needed to do. So uh, if you haven't started, it's not too late. It's well, it is too late, but start now instead of waiting any longer. Let me just tell you that. And just yeah, don't let the stuff creep up on you.
Yeah, it's definitely it's nice to keep the ball rolling even if the momentum has stopped as far as the business. Uh, Kevin, I thank you for your time. If you want to keep this party going, if you can't just get enough of Kevin's advice, you can reach out to him at Pave It Forward and at Pave It Forward LLC on social medias. Kevin, any last thoughts for the people today? I know you just kind of wrapped that up pretty nicely with a bow.
I don't, man. Get you a big ass calendar out and put some goals on it, and back, back into the actions that you need to do to get there.
Oh, and something else. If you found yourself last year thinking, man, I really need more time to do this, or man, I can't wait to the off season to get this done. Now is definitely the time to get it done because especially if you're an owner operator out in the field, it is going to be ridiculously hard to get concentrated chunks of time to really
Yep.
think out plans, especially related to your internal systems functionality or your data, perhaps. It's just going to be kind of harder to do during the thick of the year. But
Yeah,
if you Go ahead.
And you nailed there are so many owner operators in this industry, and it's look, this is something as an owner operator in this industry you eventually want to get yourself out of. But so many of us work in the business that we don't have time to work on our business. And so if you've only got a couple months in the winter because you're going to be right back on that paver or whatever else you might, whatever other employee role you might be playing on any given day for your business, you got 30, 60, maybe 90 days during the off season to really work on your business. So take advantage of that and just be mindful that, uh, long-term success. And look, I love guys that own their businesses and work in their businesses like Adam Pichet with Preston. I mean, there are guys, and that's who they are. That's what they do. It makes them tick. It makes them happy. Luckily, he's got some other family involved with the business in his office staff that helps him work on the business so he can be more effective out in the business. But if you're a sole owner operator and you don't have much time to work on your business because you're in your business so much, you got to get out of those weeds sometimes and really take the time to work on the business. And if all you got's the off season, then you need to take advantage of it.
Well, if you have any questions for Kevin, reach out to him through his social media networks at Pave It Forward and Pave It Forward LLC. Thanks again for your time, Kev, as always. And this has been the Pave It Forward podcast. Stick around for recent episodes you might have missed, and we will see you on the next one.